So in the 10th grade, I had this crazy glow up. I started dating the most popular guy in high school. I had the coolest group of friends, and I just felt good about myself. People liked me. The girls liked me, they wanted to be my friend, they took me under their wing, and all of the guys wanted to date me. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm not hyping myself by saying that. Like, 3 guys asked me out on a date. Every other guy was flirting with me, and I said yes to all those dates. And I ended up playing them all because I was so excited that guys liked me for the first time, so I said yes to all of them. And everyone got mad at me for doing that because not cool. And I ended up leaving that school. But what I learned was that I was attractive. I was cool. I started to see myself differently when I looked in the mirror and I started to act differently. I had this crazy new confidence. I was like, I can have any man that I want. I can have any friends that I want. Damn, I'm cool.
There is something so profoundly sad about a woman who peaked in high school, where the best years of her life was when she was like 16 or 17. That's when she was the most beautiful, the most popular, she had the most friends, the most male attention. That's when she was on top of the world. It's sad because once you've peaked, then what is there to look forward to? You're only in your 20s, but you already know everything is downhill from there. You're never going to be as great as you were when you were 15. It's a profoundly depressing thought, and it's no mystery why women, when they get older, they try and relive and reminisce about their glory days in high school, thinking about the time when they were at their best.
When I was younger, it was like, there's like no way, like you're that popular, like nobody likes you. But it was so funny because at the end of the school year, every single time at the end of the year when they did like best eyes, best smile, best this, I won every single one. Like I did. So it was like, you talk shit about me, but you still like voted for things like that. Like in 8th grade, I won every single category. My name was for the girl category, every single one. And they were like, you have to choose one. And I was like, okay, fine. But it's like, you're talking.
What'd you pick? Which one did you pick?
Best eyes.
I think what makes it especially sad is that these girls who peak in high school, they don't realize how undeserved all of that glory was. Okay, so you're on top, but why? Because you're hot? Because you're popular? Because guys want to sleep with you? That's not exactly the best criteria by which to judge somebody's moral characters. It's not about your intelligence or your achievements. You just happen to grow tits 6 months earlier than the other girls. So you get a bunch of attention from the boys, and then suddenly you're occupying this top position. But because you haven't really done anything to deserve that, it kind of messes with your head. It's psychologically confusing for anybody whenever they receive something that they did not earn. Now, to a lesser degree, this applies to almost all women in their college years, like when they're early 20s and they've got this top position in the dating market, all this male attention, they feel like they're on top of the world. But again, they haven't really done anything to deserve that. For sure, they might be on top of the world right now, reveling in their beauty, enjoying their position and status at the top, but do not envy those women because it's all downhill from there. Any woman who is basing her self-esteem off that temporary status that she's enjoying, off her looks, her desirability, as human beings, they have peaked. That is profoundly sad. They have decades ahead of them of a slow decline. They're stuck with the depressing knowledge of knowing that their best years are behind them, and that's going to fill them with bitterness and regret.
My body and looks and sexual desirability was not always going to be the same my entire life, and that it was like at its peak in my early 20s, and that I should use that to my advantage in life, that I shouldn't give up the cat, whatever you want to call it, so early and make men actually chase you because that's the game, that's our power as women, and that the sexual marketplace is not the same when you're dating in your 30s as when you're dating in your 20s. So maybe take it a little bit more seriously when you're in your 20s at your most powerful as a woman.
I mean, it's a refreshing honesty. And it tends to work that way. When a woman is in her 30s, she begins to realize that her peak years are behind her, that she's no longer as desirable as she used to be. She can tell this because there's not the same number or quality of guys that are hitting her up. And so the behavior changes. It becomes a lot less about having fun and working to try and secure a commitment quickly, using whatever remnants of youth and fertility she still has left to lock down a man. Lots of guys meet their long-term girlfriends in this period, but you need to be careful with any of these women whose self-esteem is still based off their status and their looks. Because very often, even though they change their dating strategy, mentally they don't really adjust to their new position in the dating market. They don't want to fully face the reality of their fading appearance. So even though she's in a relationship with you now that she's in her 30s, in her mind, she probably still thinks of herself like she did when she was 22. And in her mind, she's settling. By having a relationship with you, she thinks of herself as doing you a favor. Now, this is dangerous because any woman who's in that position and has an unwillingness to accept the fact that she has peaked is going to hold on to behaviors that help her relive her glory years, like going out, partying, getting drunk with friends. In some cases, it will even lead to cheating.
So, are you cheating on your husband with him?
Yes.
We actually met here 2 months ago. He's
Here?
a cop. He works at the bars. I met him at it because I was here for a bachelorette.
And the rest was history?
And the rest is history. Yeah.
Just tell me.
No, I met him 2 months ago. Yeah, he's great. So we're just like figuring it out.
Okay. How long have you been married?
6 years.
Why do you want to leave him? Is he a piece of shit?
Not at all.
Did you hear that? She's cheating on him, but the husband is not a piece of shit. Not at all, she says. The reason for her infidelity, it's got nothing to do with her husband. It's not about him. It's about her. She met this affair partner out when she was, drinking and at a bachelorette party, and he hit on her, and she probably loved the feeling that gave her. Made her feel like she was 25 again. She can't let go of that feeling. It makes her feel young, like she hasn't peaked. And even if it doesn't turn into full-blown infidelity, a lot of women find small behaviors, little things that they can do to try and continue to live in that feeling of when they were at the top, when they're at their most desirable. They're trying to keep the spark of those peak years alive.
Women cheat just as much as men. They're just better at it. And if anything, they do a lot more micro-cheating. What I mean by this is one of the things that women can do that men can't is on a daily basis, they can plant seeds for cheating without realizing. So if she just posts a beautiful picture, guys can comment and she can say, thank you, and that tiny thing is happening on a daily basis. Whereas for men, they can't shoot their shot with that many girls and get a reply every day.
The case that I'm making is that men should not be dating women who base their self-esteem on their position in the dating market, on how beautiful they are, how many men want to date them. If that's the way that she views herself and she views life, then she's going to peak really, really early. And then the rest of her years are going to be downhill, and a woman in decline is a very ugly thing. As humans, psychologically, we need to believe that our best years are ahead of us. That's what keeps us motivated, keeps us moving. The thought that we have peaked and that it's never going to be as good as it was in the past, that is a very dangerous idea to have. It's rotten for your mental health. Think of a politician who was elected to high office and he was at his most powerful, and how strange the rest of his life must feel after that peak. Or an actor who turns into a huge movie star and is at the peak of their popularity and fame and wealth, and then suddenly one day they find everybody's grown bored of them and nobody's hiring them anymore. How strange the rest of their life must feel knowing that their best years were behind them. For both men and women, it is not healthy for us to believe that we have peaked. But for women, isn't this unavoidable? Isn't she always going to peak in her early 20s? No. You see, women don't have to measure themselves based on their status in the dating market. They can focus on something different. They don't need to be so self-involved.
Yes. I can't wait to be a mom, even though I'm 15. I would love to be a mom.
Randall. So one day at a time.
One day at a time.
If it's done right, motherhood is the gift that keeps on giving and prevents a woman from ever feeling as though she's peaked. When her baby is born, she feels amazing. When the child is school age, she feels amazing. When they're a teenager or an adult out in the world accomplishing great things, she feels great as a mother. She feels proud. It's the best of both worlds because as a mother, right there, she can enjoy her child where they're at in their journey and feel a lot of love and pleasure and her own efficacy at doing a good job as being a mother. But at the same time, she can look forward to the future, wondering about how their child's going to turn out, excited for them to take that journey. And it's not like it ends at motherhood. For some women, the happiest moments of their life are going to be when they become a grandmother. Check out this video of a woman meeting her grandchild for the very first time and see how happy she is. Feel the level of joy that's in her heart.
Hello.
Are you surprised?
We planned it for like a month.
Surprise, Mimi!
I think so, yeah.
If you meet a woman and you ask her, what are you looking forward to most in life? And she responds, being a mother or being a grandmother, that is a massive green flag. As well as being in touch with her biology, her femininity, having good values, it also shows intelligence and her ability to delay gratification. She might not be a grandmother for another 50 years, but if that's her goal, then that's going to inform her life choices right now. She's not going to be looking for cheap thrills and ego boosts. She's going to want to date a good man with good values who's going to be a good father and raise children to have those same great values. She's going to be perpetually happy. There's not going to be the same decline. She hasn't peaked because she's expecting her favorite years to be when she's a grandmother. She pictures a life with lots of grandchildren, lots of happiness, lots of love. There's always something that she's looking forward to. That's the kind of woman that you want to be looking for. But Alexander, what about a woman who wants a career, right? It's not about partying or hooking up with guys, but she's not got to focus on family either, but she wants to be really successful, you know, make a lot of money. Is that a red flag or a green flag? And what about me as a man? My focus isn't family. I want to achieve all these professional goals and make all this money. Is that dangerous? Am I going to peak? These are good questions to ask, and I think that you should take them seriously. So in the video, I already gave a couple of examples of people who have peaked professionally. That would be politicians elected to high office and then there's no further they can go, or actors who like star in movies and experience their peak fame and then everything from there is downhill. That's kind of how I feel about work, but here's the nuance to it, is that it's not really a problem to have a career peak. Whatever the field, you know, medicine, law, engineering, business, whatever it might be, there's probably going to be a year where you win more awards or make more money than ever before. And I don't necessarily think that that's an issue or that you shouldn't be pursuing career goals. I think that the issue is that if it's your primary source of self-esteem, like you identify with your job and your career more than anything else, then that's when it's dangerous because you are going to have that sense of peaking. But for example, if you view your career as kind of a means to an end, you know, you enjoy it, but you want to make some money and eventually one day retire, and that's what you're looking forward to. Like, God, I can't wait till, you know, I'm done with the office and I'm just in the Bahamas, scuba diving with sharks or whatever your particular dream is, then you're not going to have that same fear of peaking. Let's break down. I mean, for the person who does measure their self-esteem based on their career success, just imagine how much stress and strain that's going to be if you have to outperform yourself every single year. Like every year has to be better. Otherwise, there's always going to be this danger of you peaking. That sounds absolutely exhausting. And the number of people whose career looks like every single year is better than the year before is probably very, very rare. I think that it's probably a smarter thing is to recognize when you're at top. I suppose the smartest or luckiest, I guess you could say, course of action would be to continue to get better and better and better, and then to peak at like age 60 or something like that, and then just quit while you're on top, and then live in the feeling of that glory for the rest of your time while you develop new hobbies and interests. None of what I'm saying here should be interpreted as me saying that, professional success and your career isn't important. It absolutely is. And the research is very, very clear that happiness in the workplace and feeling like you're doing meaningful work is more important to men than any other factor. Like if a guy is happy at his job, he's productive, he's successful, that's 3 times more than any of the other predictors as going to be measuring his happiness. So as men, we need to feel like we're doing a good job and that our work is meaningful and that we're good at it. But the thing is that if it is your number one, it's a little bit more outside of your control. There are some guys whose career goals are so astronomically large that it's frankly realistic. Some people want to change the world. They want to completely revolutionize an industry. They want to reach the top of their company or their corporation, whatever it might be. And I wish we lived in a world of perfect meritocracy, but the truth is that they might not reach those goals, not because of themselves, but simply because of the circumstances. And that's tough if your self-esteem is entirely based on that. So I would encourage men to take their career seriously, but more than like identifying with it, making it the source of your self-esteem, the consideration that you should be placing as your top priority is whether or not you actually enjoy the day-to-day. When you turn up to work and you engage in the tasks, are you enjoying yourself? Do you feel productive? Do you feel like you're helping people? Are you enjoying your work or are you resenting it? And if you have found work that is enjoyable to you, it's meaningful, you're productive, I think that that's really, really great. But what I see is that a lot of men neglect the other parts of their life in favor of professional success and then later come to regret it, right? Like you can sense the man who doesn't totally know how to interact with his children and he's not as close with his wife as he used to be, and he feels bad about that. Like the relationships in his life are not where he wants them to be, but he doesn't like feeling that. That's not good for his self-esteem. And so he spends more time at the office because there he's the man, he's in control, he's good at his job, he knows that he's good at his job. It's a very, very understandable trap for men to fall into. But then if you go down that route, you can't really be surprised if one day you're served divorce papers or your children don't want to interact with you. In a lot of ways, the relationships in our lives are harder, but they're also the gift that keeps on giving, because after the business goes bankrupt, after you get laid off, after you've peaked and everything's downhill from there, guess what? Your relationships are still going to be there. And if you invest in those relationships properly, then you should just be getting closer and closer to these people over time. I think in an ideal world, you should be closer to your wife at your 10-year anniversary than you were when you got married, and then even closer at your 20-year and at your 30-year. Every single year that goes, you should understand this person more, better appreciate their quirks, learn how to work with each other, fall more in love, do more pair bonding. The same goes with your children. You should get more and more closer to them as time goes on. I understand that what I'm saying here is not really an objective truth, but I think that on Patreon, you guys don't really mind that. Like I'm showing a little bit more of my personality. I can absolutely conceive that there are men out there for whom the way that they are wired is that relationships are not going to be as big a priority as their work. And it's not really my place to say that that person is mistaken. In which case, please don't take this video as like instructive, objective facts. This is how you need to do things, but more as something that should be thought-provoking, right? Like this is something that's maybe worth thinking about. When you look at the various things in your life and what gives you self-esteem, hopefully the work that you do is one of those things. but it matters a lot which is the most important thing. Where are you basing your self-esteem? And to completely admit my own bias, it's something that I've had to grapple with, and I've come down very strongly on the side of my relationships and the most important thing in my life. As a YouTuber, I could be demonetized, I could be kicked off the platform tomorrow. Fingers crossed that does not happen, but it's kind of outside of my control. If I based the entirety of my self-esteem on my career, then it's very, very precarious. It's very, very dangerous. Like, that's not really inside my control. And even if it's not some censorship thing, people could just stop watching. They could stop finding value in my content. Everybody could switch to being like ultra feminist or like ultra hardcore manosphere. And my more moderate perspective just loses any appeal to anybody. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. It's just that the market completely dries up. If I was to measure my self-esteem based on that, that would be quite frightening because it would be outside of my control. And so I've made the decision that, right, I'm going to use my work to facilitate my life. I'm not going to use my life to enable my work. You work to live, you don't live to work. That's the balance that I've come out onto, and I'm very, very happy with that. It's working for me. Now that you've heard me explain why I've made this decision, maybe you'll agree, maybe it'll work for you. Maybe you don't agree, but that's because of the way that you are particularly wired. But at the very least, I hope that you found this thought-provoking.